Stephen McClurk, CEO of Canary Capital, thinks that $3 billion could come in to buy XRP goods in the first 24 hours. Jake Claver thinks that the market cap multiple for XRP is true. What could the price of XRP be on the first day? I'll tell you what this means and a lot more if everything goes through. We'll also look at how Bitcoin and Ethereum have handled this so far, right? What did they do before spot Bitcoin ETFs? How much did the market cap multiply? What did they do after they were made? That's why I brought it up. It's fun to talk about this and see how everything goes together. Let's watch this video. There is Paul Barron and Stephen McClure. That is, in fact, about 3.2 billion in the first 3 billion in one day. You think it's not being talked about enough that an ETF could get more than 5 billion XRP in a month? I think it is. I think that is a very safe bet. That makes sense to me. One time I worked for a different company that started Bitcoin futures. On the first day, over $1 billion came in, which put it in the top 10 of all time at $100 million. Stephen McClure said that the 14th best Bitcoin futures ETF of all time was still the second one to start. That's all for the first day. It's not too much of a stretch to say that XRP will do better than Bitcoin futures if you look at how Bitcoin futures did. People won't use it as much as Bitcoin. But think about what would happen if it hit $1 billion all at once. I mean, I believe XRP makes $2 or $3 billion on the first day. Paul Barron said something interesting. Futures have also been very important for XRP. That looks like it could be a very big deal for CME futures for XRP. Paul Barron talks about how it got to 1 billion very quickly. It seems to be faster than everything else. Money and crypto. Let me hear it. Today is August 31st. Let me play this. It was about 32 or 30 days ago. I'm now going to play Jay Claver's talk about the XRP market cap multiplier. We'll get to the facts after that. What is this XRP multiplier that I keep hearing about? Asked Jay Claver. Is it real? Do you also have an example? This is the piece that talks about that. People should only look at the current supply of XRP when they look at the total supply. This is what the supply and demand curve will show. That's the molt or increase you're getting. There may still be 2 billion XRP on some sites, but it's probably not that much. The number of sites with less than 2 billion users would drop if retail was added. Things they're going to sell or get rid of are written down here. If XRP got to $10, $20, $50, or even $100, it was certain that some small buyers would get rid of what they had. Let's say we see those kinds of numbers. Allow an extra billion to be put into the markets. Besides the XRP that's already out there, stores don't hold more than one, say, 2 to 2 billion XRP altogether. From my point of view, Digital Wealth Partners is in charge of around $200 million of that right now. For now, Digital Wealth Partners holds about 1/8 of all retail XRP, based on what I found. This is the main reason why more things happen. Let's say you only had 2 billion out of 100 billion. Then that 50-fold rise that Zach Rector talks about would happen. It all comes down to total supply versus open supply. That's why the change in the amount of money coming in will. It made the market cap go up more than if it was spread out over the whole supply or just the supply that is known to be there. Anyway, this has nothing to do with stock that is being used. It's not about the 59 billion. As Jake says, the real quantity on exchanges is less than 2 billion. Here we go, let's look at these numbers. I was thinking about putting up 3 or 5 billion. Someone asked me to use it 50, 100, and 250 times. I know people want to see what happens when it's even bigger. I used 50 and 100 since 50 times is what number Zach Rector has for JC Claver. However, the supply would be cut in half if $3 billion was put into a spot XRP ETF on the first day. If you spend 3 billion XRP in one day, there is a good chance that you will get back close to 1 billion XRP. Right now, there is only 1 billion XRP left on platforms, so the value has grown by 100 times. And if trades had even less, right? If there were only 500 million on platforms, about 250 would be close. That's the reason I picked these amounts. I hope that makes sense. That's all the prices. 3 billion, 5 billion, and 3 billion. It's clear that 150 XRP is worth 100 by 3 billion XRP. You know, I want to show you something, right? This has happened before, and it makes me think of a lot of things. First, I'll tell you the truth. Then I'll explain how I feel. The spot Bitcoin ETF came out in January 2024 at the same time. Fewer Bitcoins were on platforms after the ETF went live, but not by a large amount. Things got even better right before the start. Because GBTC lost a lot of value, most ETFs brought in money in the first few weeks, so big investors put Bitcoin in the custody of partners to get ready. Before the ETF, people had different ideas about how to use market cap factors. Before the spot Bitcoin ETF, many experts said that new money would move into Bitcoin 50 to 100 times faster. However, a closer look after the ETF shows that it was only 4.4 times faster. 4 times at most, right? A lot of stuff was put up for sale because everyone thought it would be bought. Because of Jake's idea, right now there are only about 2 billion XRP in use. That amount might not be enough. And 200 million of that is held by digital wealth partners. Okay, so those are the 50 or 57 billion other institutions that have stock in circulation. Why would banks handle this differently for XRP than they did for Ethereum and Bitcoin? It seems like they should put a lot of XRP into this. This is what Jake thinks will happen if he is right. This is someone talking to Brad Garlinghouse. This was interesting. Something like this was shared today on Digital Perspective. This clip is from a long time ago because it talks about things like a Fed coin. Now that they want to, how could the US make a digital dollar? They did that because they got a bill passed that stops the Federal Reserve from starting a CBDC. Do you know what the US government could do if they chose this path? Everyone would have to trust the private company, and other governments and organizations would also have to trust it. The dollar is still used for a lot of business around the world. What do you think, though, about Ripple building a site where a Fed coin could one day replace XRP? It is free for anyone to use the XRP platform. We think about how to make it really useful for the people we work with. How can we make it work for more groups of people? What can we do to make the open source community work for more types of customers? But are central banks sure they won't be able to? Use some of what they make to one day make something better. Yes. In the end, I think that's what we all care about. This is what we're focused on right now. Business banks and payment providers. What can we do to make this work better for them? There's no doubt that we are considering what other types of people we could help. In the early days of the company, Amazon Books was the name of the store that sold books. I don't think I've ever said that on the radio, but I have said it in other places. In terms of shops, it went up against Barnes and Noble and Borders.